Okay, this is a 15-minute follow along front split, side splits video. Now, I'm not the most flexible person in the world, but I've made some really good progress over the last 6 to 7 years. I just didn't start this flexibility bodyweight training until I was 37. I'm now 44. Anyway, let's jump straight in. So the only equipment you're going to need is some sort of cushion for your knee. Let's start. So we're going to go into a rec fem stretch, so a couch stretch. So grabbing hold of the foot if you can and making sure the hip is fully open. The closer you have the heel to the butt, the harder it's going to be in the stretch, and the more important it is to focus on that hip and make sure it's fully open. So this is getting more quadricep, less hip flexor, but it's really good to open up because most people are tight in this muscle. So we're only going to do a 30-second hold, so 10 seconds left. And time. Okay, now swap legs, so 30 seconds on the other side. Same deal, make sure the hip is fully open. If you can, get the heel as close to the butt as possible. If you can't grab hold of your foot, you can always raise it up onto a step. So we'll do the 30-second hold again. Another option with this one is to have the foot up against the wall, or like I say, have your foot up against the couch or something. It's called the couch stretch. Okay, 10 more seconds. And swap sides again. So we're going to go back to that first side. The difference is this time we're going to get more into the hip flexor, less into the rec fem. So we're not going to lift the foot up this time. So I'm just going to try and pull the hip as far forwards as I can. Now notice with the left foot I've taken it a bit further forwards, and I want to keep that left knee roughly in line with the left heel. So the deeper I get, the more I'm going to have to take that left foot forwards. Now I'm pretty tight in this hip flexor position, so I'm not too low. Some people will be able to get their elbows comfortably to the floor. My left hip, actually both hips are really tight as well through the glutes, so that restricts me here. And time, so now swap sides, go the same thing on the opposite side. So making sure that front knee is on top of the front foot. If it's not, take it a bit further forwards. Pushing the hip as deep as you can. So the hip I'm stretching the left side now as I'm pushing as deep as I can towards that heel. 30-second hold. The dog is optional. 10 seconds left. And time. Okay, swap legs one more time. So exactly the same. Now we're going to combine both of those movements. So I'm going to grab the foot, bring the heel to the butt, but also have that left foot further forwards, knee on top of the heel, and then open the hip. So push the hip flexor down towards the floor as much as I can while pulling the heel to the butt. Again, 30 seconds on each side. 10 seconds left. And time. Okay, swap legs. Okay, same deal. So 30 seconds pulling that heel towards the butt, keeping that front knee on top of the front heel, and then driving the hip as far forwards as you can towards the heel, towards the floor. 30-second hold. And time, so swap legs again. This time we're going to go more into the hamstring. So I'm going to lock out that front knee and I'm going to pull my head towards my toe. So if you can, touch fingers to the floor, palms to the floor. Some people get elbows to the floor, but I'm keeping that back hip on top of the back knee, and definitely make sure that front leg is locked out through the knee. So again, 30-second hold, and then I'm going to swap sides. So swapping sides, and we've got the front knee locked out, back hip on top of the knee. And time, that's another 30 seconds. This time we're going to swap legs again. So making it a little bit tougher, making it a little bit more about the calf on this one. So I'm going to lock out that front knee. And now this time I'm going to grab hold of the foot if I can, and I'm going to draw the foot back as I'm pushing the femur backwards and locking that knee out, and then actively pulling the head towards the toe. So this one's quite intense if you haven't done this before. A lot of pressure through the calf. 5 more seconds. And swap sides. So same thing, lock out that front knee. Grab hold of the foot if you can, pulling the head back towards the toe. Now if this is too hard, if you can't grab hold of the foot, you could just do the same as we done before. So fingertips to the floor, palms to the floor, or if you need to, you can have your 2 hands on a yoga block or a step. 10 more seconds. And time. Okay, we're going to swap legs again. So this time we're actually going to go towards the front split now. So we've stretched out the back, we've stretched out the front. So I'm going down into front splits as deep as I can, trying not to let the back leg twist. So the hip flexor will often twist that leg. So just as deep as we can in that front split position. And swap sides. So same thing, as deep as you can into front splits there. Try not to let that back hip twist. If you're higher up and can't reach the floor, you can always have 2 steps either side of you, 2 yoga blocks, 2 chairs. 10 more seconds. And time. So come out of that, just shake the hips out, shake the legs out, have a little walk around for a second. Now we're going to start warming up for the middle splits. So I'm just going to do a Cossack squat. And I'm doing this more for mobility than strength, so you can use it as a strength exercise as well. So I'm going to do 60 seconds here. And just alternating sides, trying to get as deep as I can. Now I'm longer in the hamstring from the stretching I've done in the past, and I'm tight in the hips, so this one feels quite different to me. I struggle to get my bent knee hip towards the heel, but I'm quite long in the hamstring, so I can rotate, especially if I lift that foot up, I can get much deeper. So I'm going to just play around in this position on both sides. Maybe we're going to sit down onto the floor if you can, and then come back up again. So I can do that by dropping the knee in slightly, a little bit of a cheat. Ideally you'd do that and keep the knee out if I was a bit more open through the hip, through the glutes. And now I'm going to just do some transitions with the hip low as possible. Ideally the torso would be a little bit higher here, see I'm having to lean forwards to do it. But just try and go as low as you can while you're swapping sides. And that's time, so 60 seconds there. And then come back out, shake the hips out a little bit. Okay, now we're going to attempt middle splits. So we're going to do a 30-second hold in the open hip position, so as upright as possible I can with the torso, trying to have the hip open without leaning forwards too far. You can see I'm leaning forwards a touch there. Ideally that would be fully open. So I'm going to hold there for 30 seconds. That's it, 10 more seconds, just going as deep as you can. Then I'm going to start to place hands on the floor, and I'm going to drop the hip back a little bit, as much as I need to go down. Ideally you wouldn't need to go back as far as I am. And I'm going to keep sliding down as deep as I can now. For as long as I can, I'm keeping the soles of the foot down towards the floor as well. They've turned over now. I'm quite comfortable in this position, so I'm happy to bounce about in it as well. If you're new to it, don't bounce around. Just get the body conditioned to the position first. Okay, and then slowly come back out, so that's 60 seconds. Now, because this is quite intense, I've just put a Jefferson curl in between. So again, 60 seconds roughly of work, but I'm just doing 2 slow repetitions. So I'm going to start just going through the thoracic spine first, so rounding, keeping the knees soft. As my hands pass the knee, I straighten the knees out. Take the head down towards the floor, so as deep as I can. I let the elbows bend, try and bring the elbows towards the floor, keeping the knees locked. Again, I'm comfortable in this position, so I'm doing a few bounces. Then I'm going to keep my head and shoulders as low as possible, and then come down into a squat. Same thing, a little bit, a few bounces down that bottom position, raise the hands up. And then as I come back up, straightening the legs, I'm trying to keep my head down to the floor as much as possible, elbows to the floor. And then slowly bend the knees and round up through the back. And then stand nice and tall. So that's 1 rep, I'm just going to repeat that again. So rolling down through the spine, keeping the knees soft to start with. Then as my hands pass the knees, I lock out the knees, go as deep as I can, taking the elbows towards the floor, head towards the floor. A few little bounces because I'm comfortable. If you're not, just hang out down there. Okay, then pulling into the squat as deep as I can, trying to keep my elbows and head down towards the floor. Then raising the hands up above the head. And then reverse it back up again. So elbows and head to the floor while straightening the legs. Down into that forward fold position. A few bounces there, elbows towards the floor. And then I'm slowly coming out, rounding through the spine, soft knees. Okay, then it's back to that middle splits. So we're going to do 60 seconds again, so as deep as I can with a open hip to start with, so no bending forwards or minimal bending forwards. So you'll see now from the front it's a lot easier to see the difference between the two. So I'm getting down to around this position with the open hip, so 30 seconds here. Okay, now taking the hands towards the floor, and I'm going to go out much deeper, because just closing the hip there allows me to go deeper and deeper into that position. And then at least 30 seconds from the time I put my hands to the floor. So I can normally get calves to the floor once I've warmed up a little bit. And then if I do quite a bit more stretching there, I can do that position, bring the hip forwards a bit and try and lift the hands off the floor. But today I'm just keeping the hands down. A few bounces because I'm comfortable there. And slowly come back out. Now if you can't reach the floor, you can put your hands onto a box or a step or some yoga blocks. So exactly the same with the Jefferson curl now. So soft knees, I'm going to roll down, round in segment by segment through the spine. Knees start to straighten as the hands pass the knees. Elbows head towards the floor in the forward fold position. And then I bend the knees and go into my deepest squat I can. Taking the hands up above my head. A few little bounces. And head and elbows towards the floor as I straighten the legs back up. And then soft knees as I come up and round through the spine, through the upper back. Okay, nice and tall, and then start again. So one more rep through the spine. Hands passing the knees, elbows passing the knees, knees locked back. Forward fold position, elbows and knees So knees locked, elbows and head towards the floor as I pull into the squat. Hands up above the head. And lock the knees out, elbows and head towards the floor as deep as I can in that forward fold, and then round out through the spine with soft knees. Back to the start position. Okay, now we're going to put the two together for the finale. So I'm going to start in my front split position. So as deep as I can, trying not to twist that back hip. That's the tricky bit, especially because I'm pretty tight through the hip flexor. My hamstring's long now, but the hip flexor is tight. Then I'm going to rotate. So lift up as high as you need to. Just be careful of the hips there. Then as deep as I can into the middle splits. And then rotate again to the front split on the opposite side. Again, be careful of the hips. And the front splits on the opposite side. Ideally my torso would be more upright now, but the hip flexor is stopping me from lifting upright. Then into middles. And then back round to that split I started with on the front. So again, if you need blocks or chair or something underneath the hands here. And then back through to the side splits for the last time. So you should be, after about that 15-20 minute mark, you should be around your deepest position. And back round to that front split for the last time. And finish. So that's about 15 to 16 minutes. Now that's not using any particular stretching technique apart from hanging out in certain positions. If you have any questions, stick them in the comments below. If you have any requests for future videos, stick it in the comments as well. Subscribe, thumbs up would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time.